This is episode 50 of the Java series, and in this episode, we're going to be looking at how we can write to a text file in Java. So it's actually going to be a two-part tutorial. In the first part, we're going to be looking at how you can write to a file. Then, in the second instance, we're going to be looking at how you can read to a file. So to get us started, let's create a main method right here. And inside of the main method, we are going to be making use of the buffered writer file class, because I think it's the easiest way to write to a file in Java. So let's actually go ahead and call the buffered writer class. Then let's create an object called a writer. Then let's call the buffered writer constructor. So we have the constructor right there, right? But then you realize that we are getting that error which says that the constructor buffered writer is not is undefined. So essentially, this means that we need to specify the kind of constructor that we need to invoke in this particular instance, because the buffered writer class, as it happens, it not only just writes to files, but it can write to different other places. So in our particular case, we're interested in writing this our output, or our input rather, to a text file. So what we can do is we can actually create we have to specify the constructor that we want to call, that is to say, a constructor that allows us to write to a text file. So we can actually go ahead and call the file writer class constructor rather within the buffered writer constructor right over there. So then we can specify the name of the file. So maybe we can just go ahead and call our output file of the text file demo.txt, right? And then you realize that now we are getting this error which says that we have an unhandled exception of type input output exception. So if you remember in the previous episodes where we did look at exception handling, you realize that we simply need to wrap around this code into a try and catch block. So we can actually go ahead and do that and surround it inside of a try and catch, and immediately you see that error is going to go away, right? But then now we are getting this it's not really an error but a warning which is saying that there's going to be some resource leakage if we do not close writer. So we'll address that shortly. But what I want us to do is to simplify line number 8, because as it looks right now, it looks kind of complicated if you look at it. So we can actually take away this code to the file writer constructor. Then we can then call the file writer class, and then create a file writer object called fr. Then we can then call the file writer constructor over there, then specify the name of the file that we want to create. Then of course we need to pass the fr object right over there to the buffered writer constructor, and that should fix the problem, right? Then right here the exception that we want to handle is an input output exception, and I think it's okay if we just print the stack trace. There's really no issue there. Then when we do this now, we just need to specify the content that we need to write to a file. So we are now taking the writer object over there. Then we need to make use of the write function. Then we need to write a string to the text file. So we can say this will be written to the text file. Maybe let's say we just want to write one line to the text file, as it were. Then what we can do is we need to make sure that we get rid of that warning which is saying that there's going to be resource leak. So the way we can go about it is to simply close the writer object right over there, and you see that immediately the error goes away. And so when we run the code, it should actually just write this sentence or this string to a text file called demo.txt. And just to show you that we do not have such a file in the list right here, look at the file. If you look at the file browser, you realize that we do not have the demo.txt file, right? So let's actually go ahead and run this, and you should see that the file should pop up on the list right over there. So if we collapse and expand the left menu there, you realize that now we get this demo.txt file, and the output in the file is this file. This will be returned to the text file, just as we had written right over there in the source code. So maybe let's say we wanted to add another line, right? This actually maybe let's just add another line to demonstrate a certain concept. Then I can move on to show you a much more elegant way to write several names, or maybe several strings to the text file, as it were. So maybe let's add another line. So write, then we can say even more content, right? Even more content. I think that's what we need to do in this particular instance. Then we are going to go ahead and run the file, right? So remember, there's nothing that's going to show down there in the console, because our output is a text file, is it? But now if we come back to the demo.txt file, let me just scroll all the way up to where it is. You see that we get even more content, is it? But now notice that it has been appended, or rather it has been added to on the same line. So how then do you make it go to the next line? So in order for the output to go to the next line, what we can do is we can come here. Maybe let's save another line. So let's go write, then this will be on a new line. That's what we want to do. We want to make it so that it goes into a new line. So the way we can make it go to the next line is to make use of the /n, which is the new line character in Java, right? So if we do this, save and run, then go and open demo.txt, you see that we now have this edit sentence on line number 2. So that's how you can append your output to a file onto a new line, as it were. Then maybe let's suppose that we wanted to write. You see that I think you agree with me that this will become tedious, having to call writer.write every time you want to append something to the file, or write something to the file. So the way you can actually go about it, let me just declare a string called an array of strings rather, called fruits, and I can have apples, then bananas, then pineapples, right? Any other fruits, walnuts, right? Then what we can do now is we want to add these fruits to the file, as it were. So what we can do is we can use an enhanced for loop. So you can say for each string fruit inside of the fruits array, right? We simply need to write fruit. That's what we simply want to do. Then of course you need to remember to concatenate with we need to make it so go to a new line. So what we can do is we can put the new line character. So we can put the new line character, then concatenate with the fruit, such that it will take the fruit to the next line. And we are going to go ahead and save this, run, and we should go and check our output, and you realize that we now get apples, bananas, pineapples, walnuts, with each fruit going on to the next line. So that's how you can actually go ahead to create a text file, and then write some strings or whatever output you want to put to the file. So this is the way you can go about it, making use of the buffered writer class. Then one thing that I need to point out, the way the write function works is that it always if we run this code several times, we realize that it's not going to actually. Let me just demonstrate the concept right here. Let me just get rid of comment out these lines, right? Save that, so we can just ignore those warnings right there. Maybe let me just uncomment this one for resource leaks, but basically this one actually we can even comment it out so that we do not get any warnings or any errors. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this. Then I'll go to where the demo.txt file is, and you realize that now we only get this single sentence right here. All right, so what happens what happened to all the other output that we had in the text file? So it comes down to the way the write function works. The write function essentially creates, whenever you write you run this code, it's actually going to create or rather overwrite the existing file, as it were. So if you wanted to add new text without overwriting already existing text, you would have to make use of writer.append. So let me actually demonstrate how you can do that real quick. So instead of saying dot write, we can just go dot append. Then just use append. Right, save, make sure that everything is okay, then you run the file, then just close out the old demo file that was opened, then we open the new file. So you realize that now we get what all the text back. So it's because we have appended the files, as it were. So it means that if you want to preserve the information that's already in the file, you do not want to use write, but you want to make use of writer.append. So yeah, I think that's just about it for this tutorial. That's how you can go about writing files to a text file in Java, rather writing to a text file in Java, writing output to a text file in Java. So I'll see you in the next part of part 50, which is handling files. And in the next episode, we are going to be looking at how you can read data from a file.